So hopefully this is the last video I'm going to do on the Kyle Rittenhouse case. I don't like doing videos on stories like this. I don't like making these kind of political videos. The title of the video, What If Kyle Rittenhouse Was a Girl? I am going to tie men's rights and gender into this, but I'm going to kind of put all my thoughts out in one video and get it over with, and then kind of tie it together at the end. Part of what I want to talk about here, though, is the media reaction. And I think a lot of the media is being not only very dishonest and irresponsible, but potentially harmful as well. Take a look at what I filmed this morning. So I'm flipping between CNN and Fox this morning, and I'm just going to do one more video on Kyle Rittenhouse, and I promise it will be tied to men's rights. But I just find some of the coverage very irresponsible, potentially dangerous. Let's take a quick look. This is Fox News covering CNN this morning. So let's take a look.
Now is that the jury bought the narrative of Kyle Rittenhouse being a victim.
The fact that white supremacists roam the halls of Congress freely and celebrate this little murderous white supremacist, and the fact that he gets to walk the streets freely, it lets you know these people have access to instituting laws.
Welcome to the modern Republican Party. This is what these people want, and this is what a majority of white people vote for. It's a warning.
Excuse me. This is what the majority of white people voted for. Think about that sentence he just said. Now, just for the record, if you've watched my channel, you know this is not a right-wing channel. I am not a Fox News person. I think both Fox News and CNN and MSNBC are all, let's just say the quality could be better. Right, I'll put it politely at that. But this is very dangerous rhetoric, calling him a murderous white supremacist, and then saying white supremacists are roaming the halls of Congress. I mean, the act of Kyle Rittenhouse was clearly an act in the moment of self-defense. He had a gun pointed at him. He was being assaulted. And I've said before in my previous video, was he an idiot for being there? Was he being reckless for being there? Was he irresponsible for being there? Yes, it was a stupid decision. Okay, I'm not disputing that. But the amount of people saying that he's a murderer is very concerning. And the reason why this coverage is so potentially harmful is it's so divisive. And they're essentially trying to tell half the country that the other half of the country supports white supremacy and murder. And that's just craziness. And when I see all these athletes tweeting about it, I feel the same way. Let's show some examples. I'm not going to bore you with a million celebrity tweets. I'm sure you've seen them. You're seeing them right now, and you get the gist of it. I'm not picking on Colin or George in particular. Just because, I just happen to see those ones. But the whole angle about how this has become a racial issue and white supremacy, and it's now a black versus white issue, doesn't make sense when you consider the fact that all three people that Kyle shot were white. There were no black people involved in this incident at all, so I don't understand how it's become a white supremacy versus black issue when everybody involved in the situation was white. It's not like he killed black people and was found not guilty by self-defense. He killed white people and was found not guilty of self-defense. So I just don't completely get where that angle is coming from. Now, I do appreciate some people are saying that if Kyle was black, then he might have been convicted and the system might not have treated him the same way. Or he might have been shot by police that very night. Now, that may very well be true. But what are you saying here? Are you saying that it's wrong for a black person to have been convicted, but Kyle should have been convicted just because it somehow evens it out? And that's something I find hypocritical. Is I think if Kyle was black, a lot of the same people would be defending him right now. And again, physically, the actual incident itself, whether he was black or white, my opinion would be identical. It was clearly self-defense in that moment. Somebody pointed a gun at him before he fired. That came out in the trial. Someone threatened to kill him. He was literally chased. He was trying to run away, and he was chased. How can that not be self-defense given those facts? And that's why a lot of these celebrities and these media outlets are being completely irresponsible. Either they're delusional, or they're being willfully ignorant, or they're just lying. Because the facts of the case are as they are. And people ask me, would I say the same thing if the races were reversed? Yes. Would I say the same thing if it was a black person who killed 2 white people? Yes, I would say exactly the same thing. And also, just so it's clear, let me take a second to call out the right-wing media and conservative media for trying to turn Kyle into a hero. That is most certainly not what I'm doing. Again, I think what he did was stupid and reckless. I do think it's important to defend the facts of the case and the fact that in that moment it was self-defense. But I'm definitely not one of these, people that start these Twitter accounts, to praise the whole thing as some heroic event. So just so that's very clear. But let's not talk about race for a second. Let's talk about gender. Let's talk about the title of this video. What if Kyle was a girl? What if Kyle was female? How would people have reacted differently to this story? I wonder if Kyle was a female. Let's say the races don't change. So Kyle's white and the 3 people were white. If Kyle was female and a 17-year-old girl defended herself, would some of these people still be saying that she was guilty and should go to prison? Or do you think some people would maybe defend her a little bit more, being female? Or what if the people who attacked Kyle were female? Would people maybe be less likely to defend Kyle for self-defense in that case? That's an interesting dynamic to think about. If you start changing the genders, how does the public opinion change around the case? I don't know, frankly, but it would be interesting to see if people would be less likely to blame a girl for defending herself or vice versa. So that, I just think, would be a very interesting conversation to have. And this is where it gets personal to me. I've been attacked before by a deadly weapon, right? I put the video, it was 1.5 years ago in LA, where I was attacked with a knife. And the cut on the neck didn't look very deep, but I jerked away in the last second. I was a centimeter away from potentially dying. And the attacker was a woman. And she was in her car, I was on foot. She was trying to get out of the car and she was screaming that I'm an evil white man and she's gonna kill me. So I went up to the car and I pushed the door back and I pushed her back in the car. Because I'm not letting her coming out to kill me, which is what she was saying. And she stuck me. She stabbed me twice, actually. The next day, one of my neighbors, a female neighbor, was like harassing me and like calling me out for quote unquote punching girls in the face instead of pushing a crazy woman back in the car who was trying to who did stab me. And I remember, first of all, the shock of that moment, but it's interesting because she didn't bring up race, because the woman that stabbed me was a black woman, and I'm obviously a white male, and the neighbor was obviously the progressive type, right? But it's gender was the first thing that she brought up, not race. So I do know what it feels like, literally, to get blamed for defending myself from a deadly weapon, which a knife or a box cutter, I think it was a box cutter, is a deadly weapon. Okay, so I'm sorry for the light, but I just got stabbed. I just got my throat cut, and I just got stabbed here. You can see my arm. A box cutter or a knife is a deadly weapon. So I remember how almost scary it was, the feeling of, I cannot defend myself against a deadly weapon without being blamed for it. I have to let myself die or put myself in harm's way in order to not be blamed. I'm not sure I have a solution to this problem, but I guess maybe I can offer a lesson. First of all, don't look for trouble. Okay, even if you have good intentions, like you think you're gonna go, and I saw the video of him wanting to be an EMT and trying to help people, but at the same time, he went with a gun in his hand, a big gun in his hands, and he knew people could see it. And he knew the situation he was going into was gonna be hostile. Okay, so don't look for trouble. If you see trouble brewing, walk away. And I know that you want to feel tough, you want to feel helpful, you want to feel this or that, but if you look for trouble, you can almost always find it, okay? And don't assume that if you get in a situation where you have to defend yourself, that people are going to believe you, or people are going to take your side. They may not. And we see how badly the media can twist things and how divided this country is right now. We are in a high state of what I call civil irrationality. and it's a problem. People just are not thinking rationally, and I think the media and a lot of politicians are very, very much to blame. The media loves this stuff, by the way. The media absolutely. The only thing like Fox and CNN have in common is they both love this kind of stuff. You know, it's like the Super Bowl for them, which is pretty sad to say, but I think you can probably guess my level of respect for most American media news outlets. So anyway, though, hopefully I've gotten everything out. I really don't want to have to make another video about this story. So unless some significant develop happens where somehow it's a national news story where gender and men or boys or like, you know, male issues are somehow a factor, I won't be. So that's it. Oh, and as always, tell me what you think in the comments below.